They wanted me to be the scapegoat, so I brought down the entire Lin family. My father forged my handwriting to write a confession. My mother stayed up all night sewing a silver fox cloak for me to wear in prison. And my brother said he would get me out once he passed the imperial examinations. They secured every way out for themselves, but left no way out for me. I was afraid of death and only sought self-preservation and a sense of justice. So, I beat the drum of grievances at the capital prefecture. The first time I saw my name in the case files was in the secret compartment of my father's study. It was not a signature, but an admission of guilt. The paper read, Qingkai, daughter of the Lin family, secretly altered the deposition of the Luo family case, causing an innocent person to be imprisoned. Deeply aware of my sins, I am willing to bear the consequences alone. That handwriting was forged incredibly well. Even my habit of curling the final stroke inward by half an inch when writing the character's sigh was mostly replicated. A drizzle was falling outside, and the rainwater from the eaves dripped onto the stone steps by the large red sandalwood table. A solitary lamp burned. The lamp oil was running dry, and the dim sparks cast a sallow glow on the words, "Bear the consequences alone," on the confession. I was holding a bowl of ginseng tea, which my mother had told me to bring. Behind the screen, my mother's voice was extremely soft, as if she was afraid of disturbing anyone.
Qingkai is a girl. If we sacrifice her, there is still a way out. Chang'an cannot be ruined. He still has to take the imperial examinations next year.
The room fell silent for a long moment. My brother, Lin Chang'an, said,
"Once things settle down, I will go and bring her back."
He spoke very slowly, as if trying to find an excuse for himself, and also to comfort our mother. My father was in no hurry to speak. After a long silence, I heard him put down his teacup, the porcelain clinking against the table.
"She has copied case files for me since she was a child. If the Yamen comes to investigate, they won't find any flaws in this reasoning."
Mother wept, making no sound, only sniffing once.
The prison is cold. I will sew her a thick cloak. Silver fox fur, lightweight. She has a weak constitution and cannot bear the cold.
I stood before the hidden compartment, my finger pressing against the edge of that confession letter. The paper was premium Changshan paper. Last winter, when I wanted to buy this kind of Xuan paper, father said it was too expensive and that there was no need for such vanity at home. Yet now, he was willing to part with it. I refolded the confession letter, tucking it back along the original creases. When the hidden compartment closed, the wooden boards clicked softly, a sound even fainter than the rain. The ginseng tea had gone completely cold. Holding the tea, I stepped out from behind the screen. Mother saw me first, the tears at the corners of her eyes not yet wiped away. Her lips trembled, and she hurriedly stood up, her sleeve knocking over the sewing basket on the side table. A bundle of grayish-blue fur fell out from inside, collapsing limply at her feet. Father glanced at me, his expression instantly returning to normal.
"When did you come in?"
I placed the tea by his hand. "Just now?" Mother bent down to retrieve the bundle of fur, her hands trembling terribly. My brother sat to father's right, his fingers clutching his knees, not looking at me. Father took a sip of the tea and frowned. "Cold." I lowered my head. "I will change it right away." He gave a brief nod, just as he always did. I turned and left the study. The wind on the veranda made the lanterns sway wildly. The rain hit my face at an angle. As I reached the courtyard gate, I heard Mother whispering inside.
Did she eavesdrop?
No one answered. I didn't look back either. There were 2 desks in the study. One was in the light, made of solid rosewood. A Shashan stone seal sat on it. Those who came for help sat opposite it, first addressing him as Mr. Lin, before slipping the silver next to father's hand. The other desk under the west window was a bit shorter. The winter wind always hit there first, and the summer mosquitoes loved to gather there most. There was an old crack on the desktop, made when I was 13 and copying a confession, and the inkstone fell and smashed against it. Back then, father had just taken on a land dispute case. His head was throbbing after looking at it all night. He casually handed me a sheet of paper and said,
"Qingkai, see if there is anything wrong with these 2 land deeds."
I stared at them all night. The next day, I told him, the character Mu on the latter deed is missing an ink stroke, making it look like C added later. Father took the deeds to the magistrate's court. When he returned home, everyone praised him. Old Mr. Lin truly has a sharp eye. Later, during dinner, Mother put a chicken leg in brother's bowl and also picked out a piece of fish for me.
Your father praised you for being meticulous,
she said with a smile.
It is good for a girl to be thorough. That way, you won't lose out when managing a household in the future.
Brother was only 15 that year and was exhausted from his studies. Hearing this, he smiled and said,
"In the future, Father's case files should be reviewed by little sister first. That will save me some effort.
Everyone laughed. I laughed along with them. After that, there were more and more tasks that required my help. Father said my hand was steady and asked me to transcribe documents. Brother said I had a sharp memory and had me memorize texts. Mother, seeing that I could stay up late into the night, would bring me a bowl of longan soup. The distinguished guests of the manor never saw me. They only saw Father sitting in the main hall in his long gown, listening to their grievances, pondering for a long time, and then putting brush to paper. Sometimes, those words were written by me. After I finished writing, Father would sign his name on them. Lin Huaijiang. These 3 characters were neat and respectable. Since I was 16, every petition, official complaint, and contract that passed through my hands was copied by me in secret. I hoarded these papers. Originally, I had no intention of harming anyone. I was simply anxious. What I feared was not Father's reprimand, nor was it my brother's resentment. I feared that if the family's legal business ever brought trouble, the first one to take the blame and be the scapegoat would be the person who had never shown her face in the main hall. But I also understood that despite my fear, these kept copies could not be easily revealed to the world. For an unmarried daughter to secretly keep official files was a crime in itself. Furthermore, most of those papers bore no official seals, nor the markings of the government office. If the matter were ever exposed, Father would only need to say, "My rebellious daughter secretly went through official documents and does not know the etiquette," and I would become the sole troublemaker. Therefore, over these past few years, I only wrote, only hid them, and remained silent. I had also thought of speaking out, but before the words could leave my mouth, I was always the one who felt guilty and at a loss for words. Until Kui Yangsing took office, the new official dug up old accounts and audited the documents. Even Father's face darkened at the dinner table as he said,
He knows nothing of the ways of the world. He will suffer for it, sooner or later.
At that time, I lowered my head to drink my soup and said nothing. But on that day, I remembered that name. A man who knows nothing of the world might be hard to deal with, but sometimes, only someone like this is willing to investigate the case first, before considering personal relations. Father caught me keeping a duplicate copy once. That day, he found a pile of scrap paper under my desk. His face darkened.
What are you keeping these for?
I said, "I'm afraid of forgetting." He stared at me for a long time, and finally, smiled.
This temper of yours is just like your mother's. Everything must have a record.
Mother smiled too, helping to smooth things over for me from the side.
It is good for a young lady to be meticulous.
That day, I moved the duplicates to a different place, storing them in the paper shop in the back alley of Fuan Temple. The shop was run by the son of my wet nurse, Nanny. He usually wrote elegies for people and dealt in joss paper. There was a damp little room behind the shop where no one wanted to step foot. I wrapped the files tightly in oilcloth. I delivered them twice a year. Every time I went, Nanny, he would always ask,
"Miss, why are you keeping all of this?"
I said, "I'm afraid something might happen." She thought I was joking and poked me between the eyebrows with her finger.
"Don't talk nonsense, miss."
At dawn the next day, the heavy rain stopped completely. I sat alone by the oil lamp all night, repeatedly sorting through the words I had overheard last night. In 3 days, the whole family would force me to the yamen to take the blame. These 3 days would allow Father to leisurely forge a confession, allow Brother to arrange the false evidence, and also allow Mother to pretend to pack my bags, putting in a few old clothes to keep out the cold in prison. It was more than enough time for everyone in the Lin family to align their stories and pin the guilt firmly on me. I absolutely cannot sit and wait for death. 3 days later is when they will throw dirt on me. This morning, I must seize the initiative. Whoever presents their petition to the presiding judge first will completely control the public narrative of this case. I deliberately changed into simple plain clothes and tied my long hair back very tightly. Looking at my face, which was as pale as paper, I stared quietly for a moment and tucked the stray hairs at my temples behind my ears. Someone who wants to survive must never panic, let alone hesitate. As I stepped out of the main gate, the old gatekeeper maid was dozing off. Seeing it was me, she rubbed her eyes and asked,
"Miss, going out so early in the morning?"
to burn incense at Fuan Temple. She did not stop me. It was hardly unusual for a young lady of a wealthy family to go out occasionally, especially for me, who often went to the temple to pray and offer incense on behalf of my elders. No one would suspect anything. The shops along the street were all closed, and puddles of cold rain still lingered on the stone pavement. I walked in a hurry, the hem of my skirt completely splattered with mud. When I arrived before the Jingzhou prefecture office, the bailiff on duty was stretching, removing the heavy wooden bar from the gate. I walked straight to the Dengwen drum and raised my hand to grasp the drumstick. The wooden mallet was very heavy. The moment I raised it it high. My wrist could not help but tremble. Seeing my actions, the officer scowled and shouted,
Hey, no fooling around at the prefecture gates.
I ignored him. The first strike fell heavily, making a dull sound that sent a violent shudder through the depths of my heart. With the second strike, the birds foraging on the steps all flew away. With the third strike, my entire palm went numb from the recoil. The officer's expression changed instantly, and he rushed forward to snatch the mallet.
Which household do you belong to? Do you know that striking the drum means you must submit to corporal punishment?
I let go of my hands and steadily handed over the petition I had hidden close to my body. I, Lin Qingkai, a weak woman, hereby submit this petition. The officer reached out to take it. He lowered his eyes to scan the document, and his expression instantly turned to one of shock and uncertainty.
Miss, do you have a grievance?
I looked him straight in the eye. No, it is not that. The officer looked bewildered. I am filing an accusation. As the echo reverberated through the empty streets and alleys, I felt the words I spoke were exceptionally clear. I accuse my father. I accuse my brother. And I accuse my entire clan of conspiring to frame me. When he saw that surname at first, the officer was visibly stunned.
Are you from the household of the great scholar in the city?
I gave an affirmative reply. He peeked into the main hall and advised me in a lowered voice.
Girl, if it is a family dispute, resolve it behind closed doors. Once this drum is struck, the government must handle it officially.
I replied, it is precisely because there is no way out for me in private. The newly appointed local magistrate had only been transferred here for 60 days. I had never met him before and had only heard my father mention that this official was extremely difficult to deal with. He was young, impartial, did not socialize, and did not accept courtesy visits. He had reviewed several cabinets of backlogged cases left by his predecessor, nearly driving several senior staff members in the office to request leave and go home. When my father spoke of this, his face was full of disgust. At that time, I quietly took note of it. When I was led into the main hall, the magistrate had just taken his seat. His official robes were wrinkled, showing that he had been disturbed and rushed here by the sound of the drum. Several candles flickered on both sides. The dawn had not yet broken, and the shadows of the torture instruments fell upon the square floor tiles, mottled and uneven. He picked up the complaint, reviewed a few lines, and raised his eyes to size me up.
Is Lin Huizhang your biological father?
Yes.
Is Lin Chang'an your elder brother?
Yes.
You accuse your elderly father an eldest brother of altering testimony and forging fingerprints to frame you?
I kowtowed heavily. Exactly. The presiding judge scrutinized me.
Accusing your own immediate family is equivalent to putting yourself on a roasting spit.
I understand.
And you still insist on pressing charges?
I squared my shoulders. The candlelight in the hall was still flickering. The morning light spread inch by inch from the main gate, illuminating a corner of the official documents. They have already fabricated a confession document for me. I paused for a moment. If I did not strike first, the next person kneeling here would definitely not be a victim beating the drum for justice, but a criminal confessing to a crime. The courtroom instantly fell into a dead silence. The scribe at the side held his brush suspended in midair. The bailiffs on both sides looked at each other. The presiding judge did not speak immediately. He read through the complaint word by word, his index finger lightly tapping on the words, the Luo family case.
I was just about to review the old law case. Your father was involved.
Indeed, he was.
Where is the original version of the deposition?
I pulled a stack of old draft papers from my sleeve. This is the record of the victim's initial visit to seek help. It is the original draft that I copied. The version submitted to the government later omitted 2 crucial statements, yet added an extra fingerprint. The chief clerk took the evidence and respectfully presented it. The presiding judge examined it for a long time.
Why did you wait until today to report this?
I met his sharp gaze directly, because last night my father prepared a confession.
Pleading guilty for whom?
Outside, the sky was gradually brightening. Kuyang Singh put down the deposition and asked,
Where is the confession?
In the hidden compartment of the Lin family study.
You didn't bring it?
No. Someone in the hall let out a soft sneer. I heard it, but I didn't move. He looked at me.
Why didn't you bring it?
If I had taken it, they would have known I found out. From last night to this morning was plenty of time for them to write a second copy. Kuyang Singh's eyes flickered slightly.
You certainly thought of everything.
I lowered my head. I'm afraid of dying. When the bailiffs went to the Lin residence to summon them, it was already broad daylight. Father arrived very quickly. His hair was tied up meticulously. His clothes were neat, and his hair ribbon was perfectly straight. It looked as if he had only come for a routine questioning. My brother followed behind him, his face deathly pale. When father entered the room and saw me, he frowned first, as if looking at an old piece of household junk that shouldn't have been left outside.
Qingkai,
His voice wasn't loud.
if there is something Let's talk at home.
I knelt on the ground and did not answer. He turned around, cupped his hands in greeting.
She has been physically weak since childhood. She was probably frightened last night and spoke some nonsense. I beg your honor's understanding.
Kui Yangsing said.
She accuses you of secretly altering the deposition of the Luo family case.
Father froze for a moment, then sighed.
The Luo family case was too chaotic. The girl only copied a few papers in the study and doesn't understand the gravity of the matter. She is young and believes whatever she hears.
When he said this, he turned his gaze toward me, softened a bit.
Qing Kai, you've been timid ever since you were a child. Did the Luo family come looking for you again? How could you listen to what they say?
He spoke so convincingly, as if I were merely throwing a tantrum and had run to the yamen just to cause trouble for the family. My brother stood behind him, his mouth parting slightly as he whispered,
Sister, come home first. Mother was so worried she didn't sleep all night.
I glanced at him, and he looked away. Kui Yangsing handed the testimony I had submitted to my father.
Does Mr. Lin recognize this handwriting?
Father only swept a glance over it, his brow relaxing slightly.
It is my daughter's handwriting. She usually likes to copy my official documents, so it is only natural that it looks similar.
Then look at this one.
Kui Yangsing ordered the bailiff to bring the Luo family case files. The two sheets of paper were placed side by side on the table. One was the original statement I had transcribed, and the other was the testimony from the official case files. The same witness's name, the same day's testimony, but one was missing the mention of seeing the Duke of Angwo's carriage parked at the intersection, and instead had an added line about the late hour and heavy rain, stating that no suspicious persons were seen. The ink where the thumbprint was pressed looked slightly darker. Father stared at the two sheets of paper, his fingers still resting on the edge of the table, without even moving his sleeve. Kui Yangsing asked,
Which one does Mr. Lin believe to be the genuine one?
Father looked up.
Once testimony enters the Yamen's official record must be taken as truth. The sheet in my daughter's hand is purely a private writing and cannot be considered accurate.
Lin Huizhang had been an advocate for 20 years and was not about to be intimidated by a single sheet of paper. I said, Your Honor, Lu Yunyang is waiting outside. Only then did Father cast a glance at me. It was an extremely brief glance, like a brush tip, pausing for a mere second on paper. Kui Yangsing ordered someone to call Lu Yunyang in. When she entered the room, her clothes were washed to a faded white, and her sleeves were patched with 2 layers of cloth. She knelt down and kowtowed.
This humble citizen pays respects to your honor.
Kui Yangsing asked her,
Do you recognize the person standing in this court?
Lo Yunyang raised her face to look at Father. When she looked at me, her eyes instantly turned red.
I do.
Father said, in a low voice.
Widow Lo, in this court of law, one must not speak carelessly.
Lo Yunyang's shoulders trembled slightly. She was afraid of Father. Many people were afraid of Mr. Lin. They feared his reputation, and feared that once he spoke, he could turn black into white, or make the white seem full of doubt. I too had once been afraid. Lo Yunyang bit her lip and pulled a half sheet of yellowed paper from her pocket.
Your honor. This is the complaint that the Lin family's young lady helped me revise earlier. She did not meet with me back then, but only had an old maid pass it out through the side door. But I recognized her handwriting. When she writes the word life, the final diagonal stroke is heavy. It is not Mr. Lin's handwriting.
No one in the hall made a sound. Father stared intently at that half sheet of paper. I had not given this to her, nor did I know she had kept it. Lo Yunyang burst into tears, her voice as raspy as if it had been scraped by a stone.
My husband, Lu Heng, was a carriage driver for the Duke of Angwo's estate. Before he died, he said, the officer beaten to death in the alley that night was not hit by him. He was dragged onto the carriage by people from the Duke's estate, but the testimony was altered once it was submitted. Afterward, they claimed my husband got drunk and caused a death, sentencing him to be beheaded after the autumn. I went to the Lin residence to plead for help. Master Lin ignored me. Later, someone slipped a complaint form out through the back door, advising me not to go to the front door anymore. I knew it was written by the young lady.
Father's face darkened.
Nonsense. How many people enter and leave the back door of the Lin residence every day? A scrap of paper. How can you be so sure who wrote it?
Kui Yanheng ignored him. He only looked at me.
Do you have any other cards to play?
I said, if your honor is willing to search the study of the Lin residence, there is a confession hidden in the secret compartment. If you are willing to send officers to the paper offering shop in the back alley of Fuan Temple, there are 3 chests there. Father suddenly whipped his head around to look at me. This time, he failed to keep his composure.
Qing Kai,
His voice dropped. He no longer had that tone of coaxing me to go home. I placed my hands on my knees, my fingers pressing against the fabric of my skirt. They did not warm up for a long time. The items packed in those chests were mostly the drafts of case files I had helped father copy, review, and modify over the past few years. Some could not be verified, some could be matched with old official archives, and some could be matched with the statements of witnesses. I paused. And a portion of them could even be matched with the bribes the Lin family had accepted. Father's face changed completely. My brother instinctively took a step back, his sleeve brushing against the courtroom pillar. Qianheng looked toward the bailiffs.
Go retrieve them.
Father spoke up.
Your Honor, secretly keeping copies of case files is a crime in itself.
I responded, yes. He stared at me, his eyes seemingly covered in a layer of ice.
You did this knowing full well the consequences.
I looked back at him, knowing full well.
You want to destroy the Lin family.
He spoke these words very softly, yet they carried more weight than any harsh scolding. I recalled writing a wrong character in the study during my childhood, when he had questioned me in the exact same manner.
Do you want to ruin your brother's essay?
Mother had said,
Your father is not blaming you. He is just anxious.
My brother had said,
Sister just needs to be more careful next time.
I lowered my head, rubbing my palms against the side of my skirt. Didn't father already write it out for me last night? He made no sound. Outside the door, the sun rose, casting a beam of light inside, stopping right beside father's shoes. He stood in the sunlight, yet his expression was colder than a rainy day. The officers were gone for a long time. By the time the 3 chests were carried into the hall, it was already nearly noon. The wooden chests were extremely dilapidated, their corners eaten away by insects. They were tightly wrapped in oiled paper, with the dust of an incense and candle shop still clinging to the outside. Nanny, his son, was brought in along with them, kneeling on the floor of the hall, trembling all over.
Miss Lin left them in my care.
He said,
I thought they were just old books and waste paper, so I didn't dare flip through them.
When the chest lids were lifted, a musty smell of paper drifted out. The first chest contained land deeds, marriage certificates, and family division agreements. These were not enough to condemn anyone to death, but they could prove one thing. Many of the dates, amounts, and witnesses that Master Lin claimed to have accidentally written incorrectly were actually not that way at all when I originally copied them. The second chest contained petitions, depositions, and witness lists. Some of the paper edges were water damaged, while others were scorched by fire. I sorted them out one by one, arranging them in chronological order. The one right on top was the original deposition of the Luo family case. Tucked beside it was a small slip of paper, noting that when Luo Yunyang came to the Lin residence back then, she wore a gray cotton skirt with a patch on her left sleeve, and when she spoke, she kept clutching the copper coins at her waist. Those were not details that belonged in an official case file, but I remembered them. This third box was the smallest, containing only a dozen or so letters and a few thin account books. No names were left on the letters, only the green unicorn patterned paper, commonly used by the Duke of Angwo's estate. The account books did not record bribe money, only writing fees, thank you gifts, and travel expenses. Yet the date of every single payment happened to coincide perfectly with the Lin family buying a new house, my brother entering the academy, and father altering the depositions for the Xiao family. When father saw the third box, he closed his eyes. These 3 boxes could only prove what the Lin family had done over the years, the piece of evidence that could truly seal the Lin family's doom. I did not put in there. It was hidden in my sleeve. Father stared at my cuff, remaining silent for the very first time. I did not lower my head again either. In the past, I helped him organize papers and petitions, sorting out the accounts of life and death delivered to the Lin family. Today, it was my turn to pass judgment on the Lin family. No one in the hall made another sound. When the scribe picked up his brush, the tip tapped against the edge of the inkstone, making a soft click. Qianheng stared at those thin account books, not turning a page for a long time. Instead, it was father who spoke first.
Stealing and hiding official case files is already a grave crime.
His voice did not tremble at all, but I heard it. Once these words were spoken, I understood. He did not want an answer. He wanted me to shut up. Qianxing did not finish reading them in court. He closed the thin ledger on top and raised his hand to draw a warrant token.
Seal the Lin family's study.
Qianxing did not look at him, but continued.
Audit the accounting room. Summon the owner of the incense and candle shop. Summon the clerk who handled the Luo family case back then. Summon the messenger from the Duke of Angwo's manor. From this day forth, no one from the Lin family is allowed to steal files. nor contact any witnesses.
The officers below the bench answered in unison. Father did not call for me to go back anymore. As father was being led away, he passed by my side and paused for a moment.
Your mother won't be able to bear this.
The wind began to howl outside the door. I had been kneeling for a long time. When I stood up, my legs were so numb they ached terribly. An officer reached out to support me, but I instinctively dodged him. He didn't say anything either. Kui Yangsing looked down at me from the bench.
Miss Lin, what you handed in today was not a complaint.
I looked up.
It was a blade.
My lord. The blade did not just appear today. He covered a deposition on the desk.
Stay temporarily at the guest house. Before the case is fully investigated, you are not allowed to return to the Lin residence.
I bowed. Thank you, my lord. The guest house was on the street behind the yamen. The room was small, with a window right next to an old locust tree. Inside, there was only a bed, a table, and an oil lamp. Before dark, mother came. She did not come alone. Behind her followed Chusing, who used to take care of me. She was holding a thick cloak made of gray-blue fabric with white fox fur. It was of exquisite workmanship. Mother stopped outside the door. At first, she did not enter. She only glanced into the room. Inside, there was only a single bed, a table, and an unlit brazier. She frowned slightly. She whispered,
How can anyone live in a place like this?
I sat by the table. Chusing placed the cloak at the head of the bed and quickly retreated outside the door. Before leaving, she stole a glance at me, her eyes red and puffy. Mother stepped inside. First, she felt the thin quilt on the bed. Then she touched the cloak.
It gets cold at night. You have been sensitive to the cold since you were a child.
I remained silent. She then pulled a small medicine bottle from her sleeve and set it on the edge of the table.
This is medicine to clear bruising. If you are beaten in prison, apply this first. Do not let the wounds swell.
The medicine bottle was extremely small, with a red string wrapped around its neck. I stared at it for a long time before looking up at her. Mother seemed to have just realized she had misspeech. Her fingers froze at the mouth of the bottle, and her tears began to fall.
That is not what mother meant.
I set my bowl down. Then what did you mean? She opened her mouth, but no words came out. After a short silence, she sat across from me at the table and reached out to take my hand. I did not pull away. She held it, and finding my hand cold, she clasped it tightly with both of her hands. She wept and said,
Your father was foolish, and your brother was foolish too, but they don't want you dead. They just had no other choice.
When she said no other choice, her voice trailed off. Mother, did you know last night that it was my name written on the confession? Her hands froze. Outside the window, the wind rustled the leaves loudly. After a long silence, she said,
I did try to persuade your father.
How did you persuade him? She lowered her head, her tears dripping onto the back of her hand.
I said you have a weak constitution, and that prison is a harsh place. I asked if we could change it to a lighter charge, so you wouldn't have to suffer too much.
I stared at her. She wept even harder.
Qingkai. Mother had no choice. If your brother is ruined, the Lin family will be finished. You are a daughter. In the future, there will always be a way out for you. Mother will wait for you to come out. Mother will support you for the rest of your life.
I pulled my hand back. Her palms were left empty, and she stared at me blankly. I pushed the small porcelain bottle back to her, then picked up the cloak, folded it, and placed it in her arms. Please take this back, Mother.
Qingkai.
Take the medicine back as well. I looked at the cloak in her arms. If I really end up in prison, whether I am cold or in pain, is not something to start worrying about only today. Mother held the cloak, as if she were holding a block of ice. Her lips trembled, and she finally said,
Are you really going to send both your father and your brother to prison?
I did not answer. She spoke again.
Your brother is already in this state. You can't really just watch him die.
I asked her, then what about me? Mother froze. My voice was not loud. If I confess to the crime in 3 days and go to prison, what happens after I get out? Her lips trembled.
Mother will bring you back.
And where will I live when I return? She looked as if she had never considered this question. I thought it through for her. Live in the back courtyard. Never see any guests. Once my brother enters officialdom, tell the outside world that I am ill, or say that I have gone to a nunnery for quiet cultivation. Mother's face turned pale.
Qingkai. Don't speak like that.
I looked at her. Then how did Mother originally plan to explain it? She did not answer. After a long while, she finally said, in a low voice,
It is indeed harder for a woman once her reputation is ruined. But as a family living behind closed doors, there is always a way.
We were supposed to follow the plan, so they had even planned out my life after I got out of prison. For me, Once the storm passes. These words were even softer than those of last night. So soft, they almost sounded like a plea. Many years ago, my brother had a fever, and mother watched over him all night. The next day, I fell ill too. She touched my forehead and said,
Bear with it for now. Once your brother's fever breaks, mother will come see you.
I really did bear with it back then. I bore with it until midnight, delirious with fever, and it was my wet nurse, Nanny He, who came to change my cold compress. It wasn't that mother wouldn't come. She just always had more important things to do. I stood up and opened the door. It was already dark outside. Chu Sing was standing under the corridor. Her eyes were red and swollen. Mother held the cloak, not moving.
Ching Kai,
She whispered,
please don't abandon your mother.
Go back, mother. She looked at me for a long time and finally stood up slowly. When she reached the door, she looked back as if she still wanted to say something. I looked down and wiped away a bit of mud on the threshold. She said nothing more. I didn't sleep that night. The blankets at the official inn were thin, and it grew quite cold in the middle of the night. I sat at the table and reread the copy of the confession that Kui Yanheng had sent over. The Lua family case involved more than just Lua Heng's life. Xiao Yuan, the heir of the Duke of Angwo's estate, had been in contact with father as early as 12 years ago. Back then, father did not have his current reputation. He was just a destitute scholar who wrote contracts for others. The Xiao family was involved in a canal silver case in which a minor official from the censorate died. The local magistrate's office traced it to the Duke's carriage, yet the confession was altered 3 days later. From then on, the case his father took on grew larger and larger. The Lin family moved from the old alley in the south of the city to our current residence. My brother entered the finest academy. Mother got her own carriage, and I also got that small desk under the west window. The night before the second court session, Chu Sing came by quietly once. She didn't come to deliver things for mother. She stopped outside the main gate of the guest house, clutching a piece of paper in her hand, her face as pale as if she had just been dragged out of water. Miss, I wouldn't dare deceive you. The piece of paper was crumpled in her grip with a bit of ink smudged on the edge. I took it and saw my brother's handwriting on it. This wasn't a legal petition. It was a letter my brother wrote to father. I stared at those few lines of characters.
My sister is timid. If we have mother persuade her, perhaps she can take the blame. Once I finish my examinations, we can think of a way to get her out of prison. The Luo family case cannot be delayed any longer. The Xiao family is pressing us.
I stared at those few lines of characters. My brother's handwriting had always been very gentle. His brushstrokes were light, just like how he always left himself some leeway when he spoke. But this time, every single word was written with absolute clarity. Chu Sing whispered,
When Madam saw this, she wept the entire night. She told me to burn it. But I felt you ought to know, miss.
I folded the piece of paper neatly and slipped it into my sleeve. Does mother know you brought this? Chu Sing shook her head. We were supposed to follow the plan. Then we will pretend you never came. She knelt on the ground, kowtowed to me, and walked away with very hurried steps, as if afraid she might regret her decision. I sat beneath the lamp and stared at that slip of paper for a long time. So, it turned out my brother wasn't unaware that they wanted me to take the blame. He simply thought I was timid, easy to coax, easy to save, and easy to hide away. As dawn was about to break, there was a knock on the door. It was a clerk working under Kui Yanheng who brought a message.
The prefect asks, the remnant scroll of the water transport case from 12 years ago. Are you willing to hand it over?
I asked, how did he know about it? The clerk replied,
In the third chest, there was half a letter from the Duke of An's estate. Censor Lu entered the government office early last night.
I trimmed the lampwick to make the light brighter. Tell his honor, I am willing. The second court hearing took place 3 days later. This time, the area outside the gates was packed with people. Some came just to watch the spectacle. Some were those who had previously sought out the Lin family to write complaints for them, and others were victims like Lo Yunyang. 3 elders from the Lin family arrived, standing behind father, all looking extremely grim. Mother came as well. She sat in the corner. Without her cloak, she wore simple, plain clothes, clutching a handkerchief in her hand. When I entered the room, brother was the first to notice me. He looked as though he hadn't slept well for days, stubble growing on his chin, and his eyes completely bloodshot.
Qing Kai.
He called out to me. I paused for a moment. He took half a step closer and lowered his voice.
It is still not too late for you to stop now. Hayes, father is old and cannot endure the interrogation. Besides, the Xiao family is not someone we can afford to offend. If you really blow this out of proportion, no one will be able to protect you.
I stared at him. Has my brother ever protected me? His face turned pale.
I will in the future.
I did not say another word. Inside the hall, Kui Yanheng sat in the center, joined by a man wearing red official robes. Lu Jungza, the imperial censor. He was not very old, with very upright features and a volume of old case files resting by his hand. Lu Jungza was in no hurry to investigate the water transport case. He first ordered 3 items to be placed on the table. The first was the altered testimony from the Luo family case. The second was the ledger of thank you gifts taken from the Lin family's third chest. The third was the green unicorn patterned letter paper sent from the Duke of An's estate. As the 3 items were laid out together, the hall instantly fell silent. Lu Jungza said,
Today, we will not first investigate whether the Lin family was coerced by the Xiao family.
He looked toward father.
First, let us ask one question. Over these years, was the Lin family forced at knife point to alter the testimony? Or did you use someone else's life to trade for your manner, recommendation letters, and clean reputation?
The color drained from father's face, inch by inch. I stood below the dais, the short note in my sleeve pressing against my wrist. The corners of the paper were stiff and hard, digging painfully into my skin. Lu Jungza asked,
Lin Huizhang, the canal silver case, 12 years ago. Did you have a hand in it?
Father said.
This humble citizen only transcribed documents for others back then. I did not participate in the trial.
Transcribed for whom?
Father did not answer. Lu Jungza flipped open the old case file.
The Duke of Angwo's manor.
A low murmur rippled through the crowd outside the hall. The clan elder, Lin Shuqian, immediately stepped forward.
Your Honor, this case has far-reaching implications. The Lin family is but a small household. Wei Jiang was young back then. Perhaps he was used by others. Now that our family has produced such a rebellious daughter, it is already a great misfortune for our household. We beg your honor to investigate thoroughly.
When he said rebellious daughter, he cast a glance at me. I knelt below the dais, unmoving. Lin Shuqian continued.
Qingkai, even if your father is in the wrong, he is still your father. You accuse your father and your brother. How will you ever establish yourself in the future once a woman leaves her clan? What will she live on?
As soon as he said this, Mother clenched her handkerchief even tighter. My brother also looked at me, as if this were the most critical question of all. Not Luo Heng's life, not the altered testimony, not that confession letter, but how I would survive once I left the Lin family. I looked up at the clan elder. Look at my hands. The courtroom fell silent. Lin Shuqian looked as if he hadn't heard clearly.
What did you say?
I spread my palms open. These hands weren't particularly beautiful. From holding a brush year after year, there was a thin callus on my right middle finger. They had cracked from the cold while copying case files in winter, leaving a faint, old scar on the knuckle. I can write complaints and I can examine depositions. I can analyze handwriting and I can remember witnesses. Without the Lin family, I still won't starve to death. Furious, the clan elder thumped his cane.
A woman showing her face in public. What a disgrace.
My father spoke up.
Qingkai, enough.
His voice was somewhat hoarse.
What do you want? Money? Shops? Or do you feel the family has wronged you all these years? Tell me, and your father will make it up to you.
I looked at him. Over these past few days, this was the first time he didn't tell me to go home. He said he would make it up to me, as if a ledger had finally been settled on my head. I said, Father cannot make it up to me. I drew the final remnant of the file from my sleeve. The edges of the paper were singed by fire, and the writing in several places had faded beyond recognition. This is the remnant of the canal silver case from 12 years ago. I handed it up. Father never taught me this one. I looked at my father. I gathered it, piece by piece, from the ashes of what he burned. Father looked up at me. This time, there was no anger in his eyes, only a moment of sheer bewilderment. It was as if he had never imagined that the person sitting behind that small desk by the west window would also look down at the ashes. Lu Jungza took the remnant scroll. The hall fell so silent that the sound of the wind could be heard. My brother's knees were the first to buckle. Immediately after, he fell to his knees. His knees hit the ground, making a dull thud.
Father, about the Xiao family's matter back then, I knew absolutely nothing about it.
Father whipped his head around to look at him.
Cheng'an.
My brother did not look at father. He kowtowed toward the bench, his forehead pressed against the floor tiles. His voice was trembling, yet each sentence was clearer than the last.
Your Honor, please hear me. This student is to take the Ministry of Personnel examination next year. How would I dare to alter case files in secret? The confession from the Luo family case. It was father who told me to fetch it. The letter to the Duke of Angwo's manor. It was also father who told me to deliver it. This student only knew to run errands for his father and knew nothing of the inner workings.
Lu Jungza asked.
What about the confession to take the blame?
My brother paused for a moment. The handkerchief in mother's hand slipped loose, and she had already stood up.
Ching'an,
My brother's shoulders shook slightly, but he still went on.
This student did not write the confession to take the blame.
He did not say he didn't know about it. He only said he did not write it. Father looked at him and let out a laugh. That laugh was very soft, as if he had been pricked by something.
You did not write it.
My brother's face turned pale. I really, Father asked.
Then who was it that said, Chinkai is timid. If we let mother persuade her, perhaps she will take the blame.
My brother snapped his head up. The hall fell completely silent. I pulled that slip of paper from my sleeve and handed it to the clerk. The clerk presented it to the bench. After Qian Hang finished reading it, he handed it to Lu Zhengze. Lu Zhengze did not read the whole thing. He only read the first 2 sentences aloud.
My sister is timid. If mother goes to persuade her, she might take the blame. Once I finish my examinations, I will think of a way to get her out of prison.
Mother's body swayed slightly. She looked at my brother. That look was very slow, as if she were seeing him clearly for the first time. My brother knelt on the ground, his lips trembling.
I only wanted to protect the Lin family first. Once the storm blows over, I really will bring my sister back home.
Hearing these words, I recalled the chicken drumstick on the dinner table years ago. When he tore off the chicken skin for me, he had also spoken with such sincerity.
You eat too, sister.
Father closed his eyes.
Fool.
The color drained completely from my brother's face, but this time, he did not back down again. He looked up at Father.
If Father had not helped the Xiao family alter the case files all these years, how could we have ended up in this state today? I was only acting on Father's instructions. That silver, those recommendation letters, that grand mansion, which of them was not accepted by Father?
Father stared at him.
My sister's handwriting was also taught to her by Father. Her copying the case files for the Lin family, was that not also tacitly permitted by Father? Now that trouble has arisen, how can it all be blamed on me?
Someone outside the courtroom gasped. I did not move. Mother held onto the back of the chair, looking as if she could barely stand. She looked first at my brother, then at Father, and finally, at me. At that moment, I really wanted to know, if it were me kneeling in the hall today, would Mother look at others the same way? But she quickly looked away and reached out to help my brother up.
Chang'an, get up first.
Only after she finished speaking did she seem to remember I was still standing in the hall. Her lips trembled slightly.
Chinkai.
I did not respond. Her hand froze in midair, but my brother, as if grabbing onto a lifeline, reached up and grabbed her wrist.
Mother, you know this too. I didn't mean to harm my sister.
Mother's tears fell instantly. She didn't say yes, nor did she say no. She just let him hold her hand. I looked at her hand. That hand had held mine just last night. It was very warm. Behind me, Luo Yunyang wept softly, not for me, but for her husband, and for every threshold he had knelt before over the years. Lu Zhengze placed the remnant scroll on the table.
Xiao Hengyuan was already summoned to the censorate last night. Lin Huijiang, if you still want to shift the blame to your daughter, this official will use the copies of the old cases she handed over to investigate them one by one.
The color slowly drained from Father's face. He looked at me. There was no anger in that look anymore, only weariness, and something else I couldn't quite understand. He said,
All these years, you actually kept them?
Yes.
Since when?
Since I was 16. Father let out a soft laugh.
That early?
I didn't answer. When I was 16, my brother took the complaint I wrote to see his teacher. After he returned, at the dinner table, Father praised his writing for its maturity, saying he would surely have a bright future. Mother was delighted and ladled half a bowl of soup for him. I sat at the lowest seat, my chopsticks holding a piece of green vegetable, listening to my brother say,
My sister's small handwriting in those few places was also of some use.
That night, for the first time, I hid a copy away. It was not out of hatred, but the wind was very cold that night. I thought if one day they claimed this writing was mine, what would I have to prove? Which parts I was willing to write, and which parts I was not? Father closed his eyes. When he spoke again, his tone was kept very low.
The Luo family case was altered at the behest of the Xiao family. So was the water transport case.
My brother slumped onto the floor. Mother held onto the back of the chair, looking as if she could barely stand. Father did not speak quickly. He confessed how he had accepted money from the Xiao family back then, how he had helped them alter testimonies, how he had used my handwriting to copy clean documents, and how he had my brother deliver them to the Duke's estate in exchange for recommendation letters. When he spoke of the confession of guilt, he paused for a long time.
The confession of guilt was written by me. The handwriting was forged by me. Ching'an knew about it, but he did not put pen to paper.
My brother's face changed color, and he cried out in panic.
Father.
Father did not look at him.
Lady Shu knew about it. but she did not participate.
Mother's tears fell instantly. I heard her draw a sharp breath, as if pierced through by something. Lu Zhengzhe asked,
Why did you write Lin Qingchai's name?
Father remained silent for a long time, so long that the wind blew in from outside the door, stirring up a bit of paper ash on the floor. He said,
She was the most suitable.
Those 5 words contained no malice and no excuses. They were even thinner than last night's confession. But when I heard them, my fingertips still twitched slightly. Kui Yanheng looked toward me.
Lin Qingkai, do you have anything else to say?
I pulled the last piece of paper from my sleeve. It was a copy of the surviving records from the water transport case 12 years ago. The edges were charred black, and the characters in several places had long been illegible. I had sewn it onto another sheet of paper with fine thread, like stitching up an old wound. This humble woman has one more request. Before this case is fully investigated, I ask your honor to permit me to temporarily be free from the discipline of the Lin clan. The elders immediately shouted in anger.
Nonsense. An unmarried woman like you, if not under the clan's care, who will manage you?
I presented the surviving records. If your honor deems it against the rules, I am willing to stay at a lodging house until the case is closed. Kui Yanheng glanced at Lu Zhengzhe. Lu Zhengzhe said,
This case involves a key witness in a major trial. She should indeed be protected.
Kui Yanheng threw down a tally stick.
Granted.
Mother let out a cry. It was not a loud wail, but just a short, uncontrollable sob that she had tried to hold back. I did not look back. The investigation of the case lasted for an entire month. On the day of the final court session, the weather was very cold. The area outside the government office was packed with people. Lo Yunyang came as well. She wore that washed-out gray cloth robe, with 2 layers of patches still sewn onto the cuffs. In her hand, she clutched an old handkerchief, its corners already crumpled from her tight grip. She did not look at father, nor did she look at me. She only stared at the new verdict on the bench. Kui Yanheng read that Lo Heng's case was to be retried. The original verdict was overturned, and Luo Heng was cleared of the capital charge of murder. Lo Yunyang bent down, pressing her forehead against the ground. There was no sound of crying, only her shoulders shaking convulsively. The crowd gathered outside the hall also fell silent. A man had been dead for 12 years, and only on this day did a piece of paper finally grant him his innocence. Father stood below the bench, still wearing that same blue cotton robe, though his cuffs were now wrinkled and a few strands of hair had fallen loose. Those who used to come to the Lin family for petitions always said that when Mr. Lin stood there, he was like a writing brush, upright and unbending. Today, that brush was broken in half. Kui Yanheng continued reading.
Lin Huizhang, for accepting bribes, altering testimony, and forging signatures, which resulted in a miscarriage of justice, is sentenced to exile in Lingnan.
When father heard the word Lingnan, his eyelid twitched. He did not look at Kui Yanheng. Instead, he looked at me. I stood at the side of the hall, holding that old wooden box containing the case files. The corners of the box were moth-eaten, feeling somewhat rough to the touch. Father looked at me for a long time, finally understanding that this box was not something I had suddenly brought out to threaten him. It was something I had held onto for many years. My brother Lin Cheng'an knelt behind him. When the verdict read that he had concealed original testimony and delivered forged files, resulting in his name being stripped from the scholar registry and barring 3 generations of his descendants from taking the imperial examinations, he jerked his head up. What little color remained in his lips vanished completely.
3 generations.
His voice trembled.
Your Honor, this student did not alter the testimony. This student only delivered the documents. This student.
The gavel struck. Kui Yangsing did not let him finish. My brother's mouth remained open, as if a sentence had been forcefully choked back in his throat. My mother sat nearby. She had been clutching her handkerchief all along, but upon hearing that 3 generations would be barred from the examinations, she stood up.
Cheng'an.
She only called out my brother's name. After crying out, she seemed to suddenly realize something and turned her head to glance at me. I did not look at her. The reading of the verdicts in the hall continued. Xiao Hengyuan was to be imprisoned pending trial. 3 villas of the Duke of Angwo's estate were to be searched. The files of the old case were to be transferred to the censorate. These words echoed in the hall, each one heavy and loud. Yet it felt as if someone were using a knife to slice away, layer by layer, the things the Lin family had put on display for years, cutting them down one by one. Reputation, future, dignity. When father was finally led away by the officers, he passed by my side. He paused briefly.
Qingkai.
I looked up. His lips moved slightly. In the past, when he called me, it was mostly to have me review cases, copy testimonies, or revise essays for my brother. This time, he handed nothing over to me, nor did he mention going home. After a long silence, he only said,
Don't let the box get damp.
My fingers tightened around the corners of the box. The officers urged him along, and father turned away. I watched his retreating figure as he walked out the main gate. The wind blew that blue cotton robe tight against his body. Mother was not convicted. She indeed had not signed anything, had not altered any testimony, and had not touched that confession of guilt. When Kui Yangsing asked her if she knew about it,
Did you know about this?
it took her a long while to answer.
I knew.
Only those 2 words. After saying them, she seemed drained of all her strength, remaining silent for a long time. That phrase, "I had no choice," was not spoken by her this time. Her eyes were fixed on my brother the entire time. When my brother was being led away, she reached out, trying to grab his sleeve, but was blocked by the guards. She froze for a moment, her hand stopping in mid-air. I stood behind her, barely 3 paces away. She did not turn around. The trial adjourned, and everyone began to walk out. Only then did her gaze shift away from my brother, looking anxiously toward the door. I had already walked over to the door. She called out to me,
Qingkai.
I paused for a moment. Mother held onto the back of the chair, her tears falling slowly.
Are you coming home tonight?
I looked at her. Those words coming from her mouth were like a very old bowl, its edges chipped long ago, yet still presented to me. I said, no. Her lips trembled slightly.
Then where will you stay?
West Alley.
Alone?
In the end, she only nodded. She said,
That is fine. It is close to the yamen over there.
After she finished speaking, she herself froze for a moment, as if she didn't know what other reason she could use to make me stay. On the 3rd day after the verdict was handed down, the plaque in front of the Lin family's gate was taken down. I used to look at that plaque often when I was a child. It had gold characters on a black background, reading, "A legacy of just law." It was when father turned 40 that the Duke of Angwo's estate sent it over. On the day it was hung up, my mother personally prepared a feast, and my brother, dressed in new clothes, stood right beside my father. I stood under the veranda, placing a plate of fruit on the table. There were so many people coming to congratulate us back then. No one asked who had washed that plate of fruit, nor did anyone ask my father how much of that brilliant lawsuit that year had its complaints drafted and sent from the small desk by the west window. Now the officers have brought a ladder and are taking down the plaque inch by inch. As the nails are pulled out, the wood makes a very dull, heavy sound. A crowd has gathered at the main gate, someone says.
Serves them right.
Mr. Lin once wrote a petition for my family. He didn't seem like that kind of person.
Others ask in hushed whispers.
What about Miss Lin? I heard she isn't returning to the Lin family.
The plaque fell to the ground, kicking up a bit of dust. A corner of the gold lacquer chipped off. The character for integrity had half of it knocked away. I stood across the street, not going over. When mother came out of the main gate, she spotted me. She had grown much thinner, wearing old clothes, with only a single silver hairpin in her hair. I recognized that hairpin. She used to think it was too plain, saying she would only wear it at home while doing her hair. Now, most of the Lin family's servants had dispersed, and the gatekeepers had been replaced. She stood beneath the doorway, where the plaque had been removed, no longer looking like the matriarch of the Lin family. She looked only like someone waking up from an old dream. Chu Sing supported her, her eyes red and swollen. Mother saw me, took a step forward, and then stopped. The street was crowded, and she had always cared about appearances. I did not walk over either. We stood separated by the street. As a sugar sculpture vendor passed between us, the scent of the syrup was very sweet. Mother's hand lifted slightly, as if she wanted to call out to me, but in the end, she didn't make a sound. I looked down and noticed the frayed threads on her cuffs. She wasn't wearing that silver fox fur cloak. I turned and walked away. On the day I left the Lin household, I only took 2 trunks with me. One was for clothes, and the other was for paper. There weren't many clothes, mostly old ones, but the paper was packed very tightly. When the shop assistant lifted the trunk, he let out a soft gasp.
Miss, this trunk is heavy.
I said, take it slow. She didn't know that inside were the blank pages I had copied over the past few years. Unused petition papers, a few old brushes, and that inkstone with the chipped corner. I didn't take any of the Lin family's banknotes, nor did I take the jewelry mother had given me. Before leaving, I went back to the study one last time. Father's large red sandalwood desk had already been sealed, with the government's paper seals pasted on the corners. The small desk by the west window was still there, and so was the crack on it made by the smashed inkstone. I stood there for a brief moment, picked up the old paperweight from the desk, and put it into the trunk. That paperweight was very ordinary, made of bluestone, with its corners worn white. In the past, it had pressed down countless petitions that did not bear my name. Now, it belonged to me. Nanny, he helped me find a small shop. The front was very narrow, just enough to fit a single desk. desk. There was a small courtyard in the back, with a crooked-necked jujube tree growing in it. The shop originally sold needlework and thread. There were still old nail marks on the doorframe. I had someone make a new wooden sign. On the wooden sign, it read, Chinkai's Scribe Services. On the first day, I opened. No one came inside. The next day, a woman stopped at the main entrance. She stared for a long time. She wore a half-worn lotus root-colored jacket, its cuffs washed to a faded white. In her hand, she clutched a crumpled letter from home, the edges of the paper softened by sweat. She asked me,
Miss, can you write divorce papers here?
Her voice was extremely quiet, as if the moment she spoke those words, everyone outside the door would turn to look at her. I invited her in and poured her a bowl of tea. When she sat down, she first pulled her sleeves down to cover the bruises on her wrists. She said,
I don't have much money.
I asked, Can you read? She shook her head. Then I will read it to you first. I smoothed out the paper. If you feel anything is not right, we will change it. She was stunned for a moment.
It can be changed.
It is your document. Naturally, it requires your approval. She looked down, staring at the paper. It took a long time. Her tears fell, landing right on the blank space. I did not rush her, but merely moved the paperweight slightly to the side. That evening, Mother came. She did not come inside, but only stopped outside the door, carrying a food container in her hand. When I looked up from the desk, I saw her shadow cast outside the threshold, a long, thin silhouette. She looked even more haggard than she had at the yamen that day, with more white hairs in her head. Chusing had not accompanied her. She had come alone.
Chinkai.
She called out to me. I put down my brush and walked over to the door. She handed the food container to me.
The juju paste cakes you loved when you were little. That shop in the south of the city is still open. I lined up for a while.
I took it from her. The food container was somewhat hot. She had been cradling it all the way, and the back of her hand was slightly red from the heat. Seeing that I had accepted it, Mother's eyes flickered with a sudden brightness.
May I come in and sit for a moment?
The woman inside the room immediately lowered her head, as if she had intruded upon some private family matter. I stepped aside, placing the food container on the small table by the door. I have a client today. The light on Mother's face slowly faded away. She nodded.
Then I shall come back another day.
I did not say yes, nor did I say there was no need. The threshold lay right between us. In the past, at the Lin household, I always had to wait for Mother to speak first, wait for Father to nod, wait for my brother to finish using the study, and wait for the guest to leave before it was my turn to say a single word. Now, this door is mine. Who enters, who stays, and who stands outside is entirely up to me. She stood there for a moment, pulled a handkerchief from her sleeve, and wanted to help me wipe a speck of dust off the doorframe. She stretched her hand halfway out, then pulled it back again.
Your shop is small. It will be cold in winter.
I have a stove.
Remember to close the windows at night.
She looked at me again, as if she still wanted to ask if I had enough money, if I had eaten, or if anyone was bullying me. She had asked these things before, except every time it was always too late. Someone was hawking hot soup at the end of the street, and a faint scent of scallion oil drifted through the alley. Mother lowered her head and tidied her cuffs.
Then Mother is leaving.
We were supposed to follow the plan. She turned and went down the steps. After walking a few steps, stop right there.
Chinkai.
I looked up. She said,
I still have that cloak.
The wind blew in from the mouth of the alley, making the wooden sign sway gently. Wear it yourself. Her shoulders trembled slightly. After a moment, she nodded and slowly walked away. The lunchbox sat on the small table, still giving off a bit of steam. I did not open it. The woman inside the room asked cautiously,
Miss, was that your mother?
I gave a soft She felt a bit uneasy.
Did I interrupt you?
I returned to the table and smoothed out the paper. No one. She glanced outside the door, then looked at me again.
Then this divorce document.
I picked up the brush and continued writing. The night gradually deepened. The wooden sign outside the door rustled softly in the wind. In the past, at the Lin residence, visitors would always ask,
Is Mr. Lin in?
Now,
Is Miss Lin in?
Later on, everyone at the end of the alley knew that Chingsai's scribing shop was small, the table was old, and the tea served was just ordinary coarse tea. But if a woman came, she would first invite her to sit down, not rushing to ask about the case, nor rushing to write. She would smooth out the paper, move the paperweight aside, and wait for the other person to finish saying what had been left unsaid, bit by bit. Sometimes, halfway through their words, they would stop, as if even they themselves didn't dare to listen further. He asked me,
Writing it this way, will it really work?
Lin Qingkai usually wouldn't answer right away. She would only dip her brush fully in ink and ask, How do you want to write it? Later, people would always ask me if I regretted exposing the Lin family's lies. I would always smile and shake my head. I never wanted to seek revenge on anyone. I just didn't want more people to end up like Lo Yunyang, kneeling at every doorstep, yet unable to beg for a word of justice. I used to fear death, fearing I would become a scapegoat for no good reason. Now, I live well, because I want to write an extra stroke of justice for those who cannot speak. A woman's place in the world is never reliant on clan protection, nor on the prospects of her father and brothers. It relies on her own skills and the principles in her heart. The little shop in the West Alley is always open, and the tea is always kept warm. As long as you dare to stand up, I will accompany you to write down justice, stroke by stroke, in black and white.